I think I'm gonna start. So we're still in the progress of joining of the speakers, but nevertheless, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I think it's the second day of the conference and second part of the second day actually, and we gathered here to talk about the investments in healthcare innovation. We have multiple stakeholders here, and the discussion will be in a hybrid mode. So some of the speakers and dear panelists join us online. Some of those are here present. So we have representatives from all Baltic countries here with us, as well as our dear and respected panelists online. So I'm going to run a quick round of introduction, and we're going to structure it as follows. So we're going to have a quick presentation about the status quo in terms of investments and investment capabilities in biomedicine in Latvia. And then we're going to discuss it, and I think it will be quite an interesting panel because we have stakeholders, not only all of the Baltic colleagues, but stakeholders from multiple groups, starting from academia, investment funds, innovators. I think we all are innovators, at least in our heart, am I right? Policymakers, industry, and because creating innovation and also sustaining innovation is not an easy task to do. It's not only about clinical specialists, only about pharma, only about university, it's a cooperation. And we just recently, an hour ago, were sitting here in a panel discussion on Latvian policymaking, Latvian ecosystem, and discussing that cooperation should be there and we should stop talking cooperation, we should start doing cooperation. So we're going to talk about practical examples as well. So, and yes, I'm going to be also a bit of a panelist. Let's see, Robert's there. A bit of a panelist as well, moderator. My name is Emil Syundyukov. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Longenesis, digital health company working in innovations in healthcare. And let's run a quick round of introductions. So we'll just use the webpage, so we will not be in alphabetical order. So the first panelist I would like to introduce is Ramune Lauciuviene from Novartis Baltics. Welcome. Yes. Second panelist online is Irit Yaniv, the founding partner and CEO in Almeda Ventures from Israel. But let's run around a hand of applause. We're still waiting for her. Laura Strovalde, the Deputy Director in charge of Investment and Energy, Investment Development Agency of Latvia. Sven Parkel, our dear guest from Tartu, Secretary General Scanbalt, and General Manager of Tartu Biotechnology Park. Our respected guest from Lithuania, one more guest from Lithuania, Giedrius Gasiunas, Chief Scientific Officer at Caszyme, a gene editing company specialized in the development of CRISPR-Cas technology, as well as the second head there, Senior Researcher at Department of Protein DNA Interactions, Institute of Biotechnology at Life Sciences Center, Vilnius University, Lithuania. Thank you for being here. Yes. And we have Ulrika Edvardsson from AstraZeneca, BioVentureHub, Managing Director of BioVentureHub of AstraZeneca in Sweden. Let's give a round of applause to her. Thank you for joining us virtually. Thank you very much. So with no further ado, I would like to give a word to Laura Strovalde. So she's going to guide us through the status quo a bit. So we're going to warm up a discussion with some numbers, facts, and state of the art in terms of Latvian example. Please.
Everyone up. What's happening currently in Latvia in the biomedicine sector in particular regarding the investment and activities, and what's the ecosystem like? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. What's the ecosystem like, and yeah, what can we do to foster the development of the existing ecosystem and attract, of course, the needed investment? So you all know where is Latvia. Our GDP is growing, but of course, as many other economies, we would like this growth pace to be faster. But due to economic and geopolitical issues, the economy is currently struggling, and the numbers are growing, but not so fast as we would like to. However, there are great ambitious plans and projects in development. the Rail Baltica, the railway that will connect from the Estonia up to down to other countries. So that would be a huge push for the whole three Baltic countries' investment and innovation ecosystems as such. We do have 3 ports: Riga, Ventspils, Liepaja, the largest ones. There are also, of course, smaller ones, and Riga airport with the superior connectivity, which we are very proud of. And that, of course, also gives us an advantage because, as we know, the investors has this hassle factor that they choose the investment locations not only due to some economic aspects, but also how easy it is to fly in, what is the nature, the ecosystem, the culture in that particular country. So that's also important. We are proud being among the leaders regarding renewable energy. We are top 3 in EU, thanks to our hydropower, but wind and solar is also growing very fast. So for those companies who have put targets to become climate neutral by 2030 or beyond, we can offer a great environment here to really have 100% green energy. About our talent, we are second in Europe with 90% of Latvians speaking at least 2 foreign languages. So there's a wide range of professionals who speaks not only English but German, Spanish, and other languages, and French. So it also gives us an advantage. Among all the students, 13% are foreigners, but what's important is that regarding the medicine sector, our Vilnius University is doing great, and the percentage or amount of those foreign students in those particular studies regarding the medicine is much higher than those 13%. So we stand out among EU universities, especially in medicine sector, regarding the student and the foreigners who do study in Latvia. We invest heavily in our education. Currently, almost 6% of the GDP is being spent on education. We put a lot of emphasis on STEM, of course, but also on other subjects and how to really engage those students in studies that are not only this softer ones, but regards also sectors which takes longer time to study and graduate. And to the life science industry, what's in there currently? So the current turnover 1.1 billion euros. 4th by turnover among manufacturing industries. So life science industry is very important for us and among top industries in manufacturing. And mostly what we do now, we manufacture chemicals and pharmaceutical products that are being exported. I think the number is currently almost 80%. The ecosystem, I hope you managed to meet some of the representatives already yesterday and today in the conference. But the ecosystem, I would say, is one of the most active ones and one of the closest. There are quite many initiatives and working groups among the ecosystem, and not only the governmental sector is active, where the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Economics is working hand by hand together to help the ecosystem grow, and the universities, the R&D centers, and the industry is doing many initiatives to move forward with different projects. We yesterday discussed also the precision medicine and the coalition that was established. Many research centers we are proud of in Riga that do provide R&D activities and many services for centers and companies, mostly in Europe, but also quite a large part done for companies in the US. And of course, there are also top-tier research life science centers and institutions that we work with, and when we also talk with different investors in the EU and US and Asia, this is one of the strengths we are presenting, that our institutions and centers are known and recognized in other countries in the world, I would say, not only in EU. Recent success stories, both in startup sector, the Cellbox Labs and those companies that has already established their entities in Latvia, but we do see that year by year they are developing and opening up new entities and developing their activities here in Latvia. So they feel good here. The business is growing, and year by year the Roche is also developing almost second year, and we'll see what will happen in the next years. But those companies are well established here and have great plans for the future. The incentives, what we do offer for investors and companies who want to establish their entities in Latvia. We as an agency serve as a one-stop shop. So basically, when a company wants to establish an entity in Latvia, they can come to us and we will help with both the procedures, how to fast-track the different permits a company needs, and other issues. And if there is something not going as fast as it should be, then when we are there to help those companies to really move on and establish the business there. And a very recent incentive, we established a council for large and strategically important projects, chaired by our Prime Minister. We meet up every 2 months to discuss specific project development, how the investors are doing in Latvia. Are there any things that are not going as they're supposed to go, and then we discuss how we can help. And very practically, if some ministries cannot decide whose responsibility this is to help that company, then there on the spot we do that and we make the necessary decisions to really get things moving. So that is very, I would say, describes how in Latvia we can do things in an agile mode to really be fast as a small country and do things that the investors and the companies expect from us to be done. So that's very shortly from my side it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's start. I think it's a great warm-up. Thank you so much. So maybe the first question will be to the colleague from Baltics, and I'll start with Sven and Giedrius. What are your feelings about the neighboring country?
Absolutely impressive. So really great to see if a public sector comes behind in a way that's been shown now. And as you can imagine, so biotech, life sciences, it's a rather complex sector. So you need a array of things to go right to build a successful sector in that. And this requires universities to do the right things, the study programs to be right. You need to have investors that understand what things are about. You need to have the right infrastructure for R&D. There are many other things that have to be done in a right way. And in this sense, it's very great to see what Latvia and what's happening here in Riga. So if I would open a little bit about what's happening in Estonia, then I'd say that we do have a range of things that have gone right as well. What I don't, let's say, if we start with the bad, what I don't necessarily like is that just early this year, our government announced that they will reduce the funding for research, the state funding for research. I think that's not really good for any innovative sector. But this is not directed towards life sciences or personalized medicine or biotech in general, but it's a wider reduction since, as you may know, Estonians always want to be first in Europe, and currently we managed to do that in inflation. So, of course, there's a lot of pressure in our economy, and we have to find ways how to cut from wherever we can. But what I really enjoy in Estonia is our R&D program, support program, which is directed towards companies. And this is something that companies have learned to use in the right way. And we actually, we do have a few, let's say, more or less established biotech companies in Estonia. And then there was a large void for a while in our ecosystem. And I think if you look at the ecosystem, then two things have gone right in the sense that those couple of companies already provide or are able to provide somewhere between 200, 300 jobs. This means that academia for a researcher is not anymore the only choice. They can actually choose to go to a company, and then once they go to a company, they can also start thinking about whether they want to transfer it to a startup at a later stage. So this has created a pool of people who are willing to leave academia who have the right skills, and I think that's very important. And secondly, which I already mentioned, is the support R&D program, where our state will fund up to 80% of your R&D costs. It depends on, of course, on specific conditions. The grant is up to 2 million. Up to 2 million support, so the overall grant can be up to 2.5 million actually. And many companies, not just in biotech, are actually taking a good advantage of that to get their product or service outside of some type of barrier, outside some type of hole that they have been sort of facing. And this type of state investment also creates a little bit of more confidence for the investors. So if investors see, and in Estonia, we have no biotech investors. We have really very, very few people, maybe 1, 2, 3 people, who actually understand a little bit about how biotech actually works. And it gives a wider confidence for people who want to try out and do something in tech, in health technologies, for example, or in biotech and life science, that state is guaranteeing, let's say, 80% of the overall investment that the company needs. And so I think that has gone right. But again, very impressive what's going on in Riga and Latvia, and that was very, very nice presentation.
Thank you so much. So you mentioned about academia and industry. It's not the only place now to cultivate innovations, especially in Estonia. So how is it in Lithuania, Giedrius? Because you wear these two, at least virtual hats.
Okay. So maybe I will start also that I was quite surprised that so much also happening in biotech sector in Latvia, and actually that it's also create some important piece of GDP. So I'm looking forward also for some potential collaborations here. And from if we compare with Lithuania, so in Lithuania we have, as you most probably know, we have one very large player. So it's a branch of Thermo Fisher Scientific, and it's creates, I think, most of the GDP part which is dedicated for life sciences. And also it creates some pool for potential employees, so which is, I would say, creates a school of potential employees in this sector. And there was also some success story with two companies which attracted a lot of quite substantial venture capital. One is working in microfluidics called droplet genomics. Another one is involved in this design of proteins by artificial intelligence. So it was in the news this year. So it's a but still, and also what I liked from at least presentation about Latvia biotech sector is that at least the implementing strategy. So in our case, also our government says that they have strategy like to generate 5% of GDP from biotech. We still are very dependent. All the financing is very dependent on EU money, and also it's very inconsistent and changing, so it's do not help a lot for innovators.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's very interesting. I was your prime minister. We went to the conference with Sven, one of our first international trips together. He remembers it for sure. He could tell you a couple of stories after the panel discussion about the lamp story, but nevertheless. So we've seen your prime minister, the previous prime minister or the prime minister before, stating that your strategy is biotech, which was quite amazing, because it's always a challenge for some countries to actually crystallize what will be the vector, because there are so many, like starting from culture, academia, biotech, sports, military, everything. And how did you actually manage to put this one thing, and the prime minister stating this?
So as I mentioned, I think one large player helps, because I think it's during pandemics, Thermo Fisher site generated 1% or more of GDP. So it's
a good strategy.
It's easy to.
It's a very good strategy.
So good, how to say, it's a good roadmap.
Thank you. No, it's quite easy to draw this map if it's generating more than 1% of GDP for the country. Ramune, so you're coming from one of the leading pharma companies, and you do invest in innovations per se in Baltics. We will talk about the examples a bit later, but why Baltics? You're a global company. You have so many offices. So why do you cultivate innovations here?
Thanks a lot. I think Baltics is equally important and equal player if to look to different scope and countries. And let's start from what was our initial point for discussion: investment and being in EU. So pharma, maybe for some it will be surprise, but for some it's already clear for many years. In EU, pharma industry is major employer and investor in EU economy. So it means footprint, what is made by pharma industries is quite significant. And typically we consider investments as injection, financial injection or donation in best cases, which is not at all. And starting point is what, as a company, as Novartis, we employ people, we pay salaries, we pay taxes to government, we support research and development, we support academia. So this is all in one, finally making quite significant difference versus being here or not being in the country. And research, I mentioned research. Also, if to take European landscape, more than 20% investments coming to research from pharma industry. This is also a huge amount of investments and big driving mechanism. As Novartis, maybe our starting point was global, as global company. Last year, as Novartis, we invested $8.6 billion USD into research and development. So you imagine what is scope and what are impact to science and to medicine as a sector as one. And maybe last, what makes me always exciting and how we can benchmark ourselves with high-tech companies, and we are comparable. Invested $1 USD in the healthcare sector brings $4 USD back. So find another place so highly, let's say, profitable or highly valuable and bringing so much benefit into society and economical mechanism. So salaries, taxes, one story. Another story, our ultimate and major objective and goal is to reimagine medicines to make people life better quality and longer. And this is related to people ability to be back to work and to contribute from different perspective to country economy. And it's not only patients, it's caregivers who are released from obligation to stay at home and to look after family members. So these people, if they are able to be back and to stay contributing to us as employees, as workers, so this is huge, once again, impact and to country economy.
Thank you, Ramune. So basically, apart from direct revenues, there is both indirect, both tangible, non-tangible value that we can bring.
Absolutely.
So it's okay. It's good. We have already two examples of ROI, return on investment, from Giedrius telling about the 1% of GDP plus coming from the investment in biotech, and also Ramune stating that it's a major footprint that life science sector is giving to R&D and innovations. So we have Ulrika online. Do we? Okay, we have some technical issues there. Nevertheless, let's continue. Let's try to somehow connect this multiple islands all together. So we have public sector, and in most of the discussions, everyone is expecting something from you, all the time. So let's try to keep it a bit interesting. So what do you expect from the stakeholders here? And we have Ulrika back as well. So let's give a floor to Laura, and then we will switch to the experience of BioVentureHub, please.
Mm-hmm. This question I haven't been asked very often.
Yes.
So I can put my wish list, so to say. But what we would like from the industries, from the investors, I think dialogue on what are the expectations from the government. And so that we can find that sweet spot where the expectations and the actual things we can do can be aligned, and where can we make that win-win situation. So very openly expressing what is the actual situation and expectations. And another thing, of course, is to not underestimate the Baltic countries and Latvia, and to really see those benefits that in small countries you can do things faster, and there are a lot of other benefits, of course, also, and to I don't know, I think to see that investment as a step to really go into that whole ecosystem and be equal partner, and to really give that feedback how the investor feels, not to suffer alone. There are some cases when we accidentally speak with some company, and we didn't succeed here. We tried, but we cannot make this or that, and that's why we are going away. But have you talked to us? Sometimes there are some silos when everyone's suffering somewhere, but not talking to each other.
So communication is the key. I think it's like a bullet flying through all of the discussions throughout 2 days here. Yeah, so Ramune, you have something to add?
Yeah, yes, I want to reflect, Laura, what you mentioned. Small countries and maybe not super big interest from investors to come to these countries. We have absolutely amazing example, Slovenia. And Novartis established huge manufacture facilities, more than 2,000 employees working only serving this particular factory. and the contribution into country GDP and value bringing to the country is amazing. Country equally population-wise to Latvia, so we always compare Latvia, Slovenia. What is the difference? What was attraction or what was interest for big corporation as Novartis to enter Slovenia? So many things, and we should work together, and I'm happy to sit here together and to start this conversation, just to work on legislation or legal framework or regulation. We have amazing talent pool. Human capital is here, so it's already something what no need to create. So let's do things and attract more investments into the Baltics.
Thank you, Ramune, for mentioning Slovenia, because we guys here love to compare each other, within Baltic states. So I think it was a good example from screening perspective. We very much talked about Slovenian example in comparison to Latvian. But switching to our Swedish partners, so for creating innovations, also myself coming from startup field, it's all about impact and scalability. Often also from a bit smaller market, it might be sometimes a bottleneck to find the right place where the door will be opened. And question to you, Ulrika. So you as one of the also major players in the pharma field, you opened a separate venture, BioVentureHub. So what was the intention, and why you also do this, and not just basically providing grants to universities, but rather have an exactly separate place where to cultivate innovations? Maybe you can explain a bit.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm a bit odd bird here, I would say, because I will not talk about monetary investment here. So instead, I will talk about how we can support and catalyzing innovation in a very different way. And so AstraZeneca BioVentureHub, I mean, it's a very unique example of open innovation within AstraZeneca. It's a physical innovation platform for emerging life science companies. And what makes it unique is that we're welcoming companies to co-locate inside AstraZeneca R&D site in Gothenburg, Sweden. And the companies, they have exactly the same access to the site as I and my colleague have. And it's very unique, actually, from being a very close site, open up for these companies to be here. And the reason why we did this was actually in those days, 10 years back, we had empty space in our facilities. And my boss, Magnus Björsne, who is the man behind it, he was working with merger and acquisition in those days. And he saw that, in BD, we say no to very early companies most often, because we would like to make deals in license very mature and validated asset. And he noticed that we miss a lot of great opportunities of working with early companies, very exciting novel science. So by having this empty space and having this idea, why not use this empty space and invite companies to take part of our excellent infrastructure that we have here? Because as we all know, small companies need much more than capital to succeed and reach a commercial product in the final end. And by being here at this R&D site in Gothenburg, we have more than 3,000 employees here with a broad range of expertise. So it's all the way from target identification to small-scale manufacturing. We have a lot of enabling technologies, data, AI, and so on. So the companies that are located here, they can really tap into all these expertise, have discussions, networking, get advice, etc. And it's, of course, knowledge sharing in both directions. But this idea was also presented actually to the Swedish innovation agency, Vinnova, and they really liked the idea of supporting small companies in their growing journey. So they actually supported this initiative from start. So now during 10 years, we have had funding from the Swedish innovation agency, Vinnova, and also the region VGR to support this, because, and having governmental money, the objective from start have actually been to strengthen the life science ecosystem, to support SME growth, and also to attract talent to the region. So it has been from start actually a lot for the greater good, to strengthen the ecosystem, because that is really, really important for creating novel innovation and healthcare solutions in the future. So that is kind of the reason. And now we have reached a stage where the public funding actually will cease by the end of this year. And that is not because they don't like it. They like it very much, both Vinnova and the region. But we cannot receive any further funding due to European state aid rules. But AstraZeneca see the value of having the hub. So we have decided to keep it and run it on our own cost, but we will kind of change the strategy a bit now. But that is kind of the model and the reason why we built it. So what was your second question? Have I answered that?
I think I also forgot the second question, Ulrika. So, but thanks for outlining this, and we will get back to what you mentioned. You know, there is a abbreviation of 3 letters, what we like in Latvia. It's called PPP, or Public-Private Partnership, and I think you exactly, you know, stepped into one of the next topics we will have during the panel, because I think this is one of the crucial things. We talk a lot in Latvia about the PPP, you know, and this partnership model, and you know, we love that we made it in the roads. I think the infrastructure was there in construction, as I remember, but shouldn't be a biotech one of the things to cultivate this PPP magic letter combination?
Yes, that now it seems like we'll have only PPPs because by doing one project successfully, now the government sees that it really works. Like, but of course we have to grow our knowledge and expertise in this, because each and every project is different. So one thing is build road or build school with PPP and those large infrastructure projects. But another one is where it's knowledge intensive project, so to say, and how can we do that? But I would say that PPPs in life sciences might be a different game, because there are different players. Like you can those investors or investment funds that invest in life sciences not necessarily invest in infrastructure projects. So we have to search for different funds. But I do see that you know, in the world regarding the funds, that money money is not a problem. Problem is how to structure that PPP so that everyone's interested and the investment doesn't cost Latvia a fortune, right? So that we do have that business case there. But I think, yes, we from the agency, we haven't worked on PPPs in life science yet. We have in our portfolio projects regarding the infrastructure, Rail Baltica, Riks Airport, and other these large projects, but not in life sciences. But we can do that.
So I've marked this in my notes. So for the private part of our audience, that the public part is opened. And as I heard in one of the networking yesterday, someone described the abbreviation PPP as a profit. So everyone will profit from that in the end of the day.
Maybe we just translate wrongly the abbreviation. Yeah.
Yes, maybe. But I think Ulrika also started a good thing about the practical examples. So she mentioned about the headcount, the amount of innovations coming into the BioVentureHub in Sweden. So what about our Baltic colleagues? So let's start with maybe Sven, then move to other speakers. So what you're working in a Tartu Biotech Park, which is also a cultivator, as I might say. So what are the practical things that were cultivated there?
Good word, cultivator. So we like to say that we're a science park or an incubator, but cultivator is also a very good word in this sense. So we do have our own building. We work with early stage innovative companies. We're rather a common science park in this sense. that we offer lab and office space as well. We work with Tartu City in incubation program, and we do quite a few European funded projects. So when with Tartu Biotechnology Park, we work on Estonian ecosystem level. Then with Scanbalt network, it's an innovation work on a Baltic Sea region level. So in a way, we try to support both the national and regional level view. So you were talking about PPPs and then the public-private partnerships, and I really went heavily into thinking that what's the situation in Estonia, and I don't know if this is not really a term much used in Estonia, or this is not really a really big topic in Estonia, but I'd say that we don't really discuss and try to develop things in that way. I'd say it seems that state has their own views and own fundings, and then the rest is sort of tendered to the private sector, and so there's perhaps less this type of infrastructures where you would have clear some type of co-development of both sectors. Of course, this is in funding frameworks. There you can see that the public money has to be matched with private funding, at least to some extent. So these type of partnerships, of course, exist. But yeah, looking at what's happening in Sweden and what AstraZeneca has been doing for some time already there. So these different labs and making this infrastructure available for early stage companies. So there are companies in Estonia who are thinking or trying to do a little bit of the same. I'd say it's extremely necessary opportunity for companies, I think, because differently to Sweden, in Estonia, all the IP created in the university stays with the university. So it's again creates, at least gives these companies an opportunity to do something outside of the university boundaries, because automatically if you stay there, you use the university equipment, you have a working contract with the universities. Later, very hard to argue that somehow you were not working for university at that time. So what were you doing there? So these type of spaces are, I think, extremely necessary in the ecosystem. It's perhaps in Estonia we don't have a clear business model for those yet, and where I think many companies are a bit or those companies who would be able to establish something similar, they are a bit cautious whether they're able to provide the or support the needs of a vast variety of biotech companies. So you have sequencing, you have agar gels, you have centrifuge, etc., etc. So there's a lot that can be used by a biotech company. So this means already rather extensive park, but probably some other arrangement with the university could be worked out where some of the equipment could be rented by the company. So there are different opportunities, but yeah, if we look at that type of spaces that I was just described by AstraZeneca, then I'd say there's a need, and we don't have those really. I think it would make a lot of sense to have. And we could also probably be more trustful towards this public-private partnership. I think perhaps there's a bit of a divide between the public and private sector in Estonia, that it's not that easy to do things together, I think.
Just a quick follow-up question, then we will move forward. So you must probably heard this mantra for startups or innovators coming from Baltics, that if you're doing business only in Baltics, then you're pretty much will not be scalable. Let me rephrase it in a bit. So with a bit of more nicer language. So and the question for you is as a biotech park, we have two small and short questions. The first one. So you give this opportunity for startups that tend to leave, and most probably to leave the market, or it will be a bit hard for them, at least to attract venture capital. And second of all is, you mentioned, Sven, that you think that it will be a good investment to invest in the infrastructure and ecosystem in Tartu in particular as an example, but is it maybe rational to collaborate with organizations like Ulrika leads or someone else to just nurture them and just give this nest to Sweden, to Gothenburg, and then I don't know, somehow wave them back when they're coming?
Sorry, can you repeat the first question? I didn't understand what was leave or lead.
Leave, not lead. Yeah. So the startups tend to leave, you know, the small countries and small markets, like Baltics is an example.
Yeah. So Estonia has 1.2 million people in the nutshell. So when we're talking, for example, also the larger corporate interest towards Estonia, then it's, I mean, this was a topic in Estonia for some time, and it became quite clear quite fast that considering that we tried to provide studies in a vast variety of topics, so biotech, legal, social, whatever you have, it means that the amount of people that come out of university with relevant degrees for large corporates to have some type of development center in Estonia is not enough. So we just don't have enough people in Estonia to have that. So coming to the question that how to deal with those companies that are going abroad, it's the same question for them. So at one point, these companies have to start scaling. As you mentioned, they need more people, they need experienced people, and then they face the question whether to go abroad or not. So I'd say many still stay in Estonia in early stage, because going abroad is not always easy. It's not that in every place somebody's waiting for you, so you really have to find your place and a good spot there. But yeah, I mean, bringing them back is even harder work, I'd say. So once they have established somewhere, then yeah, they may establish a branch or something because they like to come back home and would like to, the CEO would like to come back home every once in a while and have some type of connection with the homeland. But otherwise, I'd say that the size creates a bit of issues for us in this regard, even if we do things in a smart way. And the second question was about infrastructure, yeah? So should we develop something in infrastructure? You mentioned that...
just give the innovations to nurture somewhere else.
Yeah. So like develop a pipeline which does not only contain Tartu, but just contains a small part in Tartu, and then the companies would leave somewhere else. So this is definitely an idea to play with. I'm not actually sure. You mentioned that maybe it's a good idea to have this type of incubation centers. I haven't done any business analysis towards those myself, but I've been approached at least one company, and I know another company who was thinking about that type of space at one point in time. But for some reason, the first plan didn't materialize, and as far as I understand, the second company hasn't really moved forward with that. But again, I'm not saying that I have any insight on the business side of things, because as those are companies, they have to make ends meet, and of course, none of those is a large company like AstraZeneca that perhaps has a bit of a more variability in their finances, but of course, in the end of the day, it still has to be business one way or another. So it's the question if you can have a runway somewhere. But it's a very interesting format, and I really enjoy what's happening in Sweden. It's just maybe we still haven't found the right angle how to open this, and perhaps your idea that we start at some stage and then try to establish a pipeline with other players in Europe to extend it. So this could be definitely an idea.
Thanks. And also this reinvestment part and coming back, I think was realized and implemented in Estonia, not in the life science sector to my memory, but companies like Bolt, TransferWise, or Skype, they did reinvest both the capital as well as the human capital in city of Tartu, as an example. When you're sitting in the old part of town, you see, that a lot of places were renovated by the founders of Bolt, Wise, and other companies, which is, I think, a very, very good example of actually nurturing these innovations and giving them a nice fly towards scalability. But let's run through this practical examples. Ramune, maybe you have some practical examples from, Novartis perspective in terms of Baltics innovation, cultivation.
Maybe to start, short intro, how we go and what is in general perspective. So I would land on partnership, and no matter is public, private. it's critical just to sit, to have dialogue, to align on objectives, KPIs, resource allocated, and to go. So what is observation from corporate perspective in big companies or public sector, which is also very, very complex? Sometimes we are lacking speed, and sometimes it simply stuck because of regulation, because of processes which needs to be followed as sector very, very sensitive, let's say. Having a couple of examples or practices working with another private sector, or let's focus, for example, our experience with startup Longenesis. We have Latvian experience in Estonia. We have also strong practices. Speed is here, and you guys, you're really coming with completely different energy, completely different perspective, being very, very clear what final objective is value most, but not how long and how much we involve players into the process. And this is absolutely great, and catching this energy, catching knowledge in handling technologies, artificial intelligence incorporated into processes, it's getting a result we see completely different. And pharma sector is already long ago not anymore about medication or drugs. It's we called ourselves more than medicines. So it means patient journey around starting from screenings, from diagnostic tools, how patients are monitored being on treatment, what are follow-up practices. So this is exactly field to cooperate, and here we feel what having partnership is huge value, not only for us as a corporation, but huge value for public sector, for hospitals and research institutions. Yeah.
Thank you, Ramune. So, Giedrius, I think you're a good example of, practical example of, innovation per se. So you hold two positions. Is your company a spin-off, or is it somehow related to the university?
So it's actually, we say it's like private company. So it's established by scientists, but which were employees of university. So we did not brought IP, but created developed own IP, developing our own IP in the company. So, but as a early stage growing company, I think benefit also from some, let's say, government support and public sector. Because, few examples, we also started a bioincubator, so it's helped a lot. Also, we have some, at least in Lithuania, some so-called open access services. So you, as a company, you can go to university or the labs and access their equipment, which also it helps, especially in the beginning. And also we have some special grants for, and now we have more and more grants for collaboration between academic labs and companies, which also I think adds some
acceleration.
Yes, and also provide some alternative funding possibilities compared to venture.
So you do, like Ulrika mentioned, there are monitor and non-monitor investments that you as a company, as an early stage now growing stage company, you invested your time, your skills to Lithuania. So have you ever considered, investing the same thing outside of Lithuania, or was it Lithuania per se to start it?
So we almost all our employees are Lithuanians, so it's we have talent pool here, so therefore we did not consider moving here. But we are working now with company as a partners with companies from US, South Korea, Taiwan, trying to establish also connections in Taiwan. And what we see is that actually you still for such collaborations, you usually need to have some people here in this kind of local person. So we're considering, therefore, at least not moving like completely, but at least having some branches here.
So being Lithuania-based international company, that's
corporation.
Really great. So hopefully it will be 2% of GDP after term of issue and you in a year or so. Yeah. So I will give a word to Ulrika, and then we have some follow-up thoughts from Ramune as well. So Ulrika, I have two questions to you. So first and foremost, Sven, I think touch base the IP question, and Sweden I think is one of its kind because IP belongs to the professors. Am I right? How did you reach it? Like, how did you reach this stage of of freedom for commercialization?
I think it's wrong to ask me as a person because I'm not on top really about the history here of how it was created like that. But maybe actually it's one of the reasons why Sweden is among the top 3 when it comes to innovations worldwide. So it might be a crucial factor actually to driving innovation. But I cannot respond to that any better actually. But maybe I can comment on because we said before here that you haven't something similar in the Baltic region like what we have here. So I just want to emphasize that the BioVentureHub is open also to support the Baltic area. So we have companies not only from Sweden in the BioVentureHub, we have had companies from US, UK, Switzerland, Netherlands. Now actually the first company from Norway moved here. And it's actually a reason for that, because just to give you a flavor of the background here and why people see it's a value, because in Norway, they don't have any big pharma R&D, and it's our neighbor. So last year in December, we actually set up a memorandum of understanding in between us, in between some of the science cluster in Oslo, together with the BioVentureHub, and that was actually to strengthen the life science ecosystem and to strengthen the links in between us. And it was also to raise the awareness of the BioVentureHub and provide opportunity for Norwegian companies to come here as well. So a result from that piece of work is actually that a Norwegian company joined us the 1st of October this year. So it was so we're very happy about that, and we will hope that we will create joint value also, both for the company and for AZ. Because the idea here is that the companies that are moving here, they are typically in the scale-up phase, because here in Sweden, and I guess it's the same in your countries, the startups get very, very good support from academic incubators in the startup phase with business coaching, a network of investors, IP support, etc. But in the scale-up journey, we believe there is a gap to fill. And as I said before, the industry support, industry knowledge is of great value for them. And by sitting in this environment, we can provide a lot of support to them. So that is kind of the case here. And the way we can work with these early companies, because they don't have any commercially ready products yet. But what we can do together is, if it's, for example, platform companies with technology platform that is of interest to us for tools to complement the drug development process, we can work in the very early stage in an exploratory setting, and we can work more or less side by side in the laboratories and tell these companies about, from a customer perspective, and tell them, if you are developing your product like this and this, then it will be very attractive to us. And since we don't need exclusivity, they can sell it all around the globe. So we provide the customer perspective and also knowledge about how to develop a product that is attractive to us and also to the entire pharma community, so to say. And what we get in return is that we get early access to novel science and technologies. So that is kind of the model of working with these early companies. But it's very important also to raise here and that there are no strings attached to AstraZeneca. The companies, they're running their business here fully independently. So we don't have any rights what comes out from the companies. So that is also what we believe is important. And it's a bit of unique, but we believe it's important to have that model.
So just a quick follow-up question. So I think Ramune already started that it is both exciting to work with large corporations like pharma companies, but it's also sometimes a challenging thing because your processes are sometimes quite long and massive. Regulation is there, and a lot of factors. So how do you actually integrate this young and crazy innovators in your own process pipeline in Astra, like accessing this early innovation? How do you persuade sometimes very conservative public from the company to integrate it?
As I said, I mean, they are here, so they're here running their own business, so they are independently working here. And as I said, when we are working in the exploratory state, it's actually very smooth because we have like AZ champions who are engaging with the companies, working together with them. And sometimes if it's very early, we don't even need an agreement in place. If it's without any sensitive material and if the results can be owned by the companies and so on. But of course, if we set up a true research collaboration with these companies, then of course we need to set up a legal agreement in between us, covering IP, etc., etc. But we try to do that as smooth as possible, and we in our team are kind of the middleman between the companies and AstraZeneca BD to try to facilitate, to make it more smoother. Yeah.
Thank you, Ulrika. So Ramune, you had something to add, as I see the mic in your hand.
To reflect a couple of times, you mentioned what startups leaving small countries wanted to go bigger, broader. So from our perspective as Novartis Baltics, we take it as advantage and additional value of being in small country, as you have privilege to experiment, to do things differently, what was never done before, and to fail. So this is also what is most probably not so open door being in big country. So the same, I think, for startup to be successful and to reach this glorious moment, you go through many failures in your journey. So even national level, sometimes it's not scope to target from very beginning. So take you start from accounts, from small hospitals or institutions, and only expanding to national level and more countries. But experience which you are gaining during the journey and knowledges you are gaining during the journey, I think it's most valuable, and you are learning by growing, and after all world is in front of you.
Thank you, Ramune, for opening this, not a Pandora box, but a very interesting topic about ability to fail. For private players, ability to fail means it might be a sad moment, but you understand what you're risking for, especially in life science sector, when we're discovering novel treatment to drug is basically a lot of failures and then, a big win. But what about the public sector, Laura? So ability to fail is something that is not often, tied very good and very good, also percepted. So how do you feel? Are you, as a public sector, are ready to be able to fail and to risk with this type of things, to invest into innovations or the same drug development that might fail in the end of the day?
Mm-hmm. I think we have to be ready to fail, because it's learning, of course. Of course, the level of willingness to take a risk is different, but that's the thing that was also mentioned, that you have to prioritize and focus on one or another area, like the minister put out that biotech, biomedicine is our focus very clearly. So it also takes a willingness to risk, to take that this is our priority, and we will do and invest a lot of money in that priority, that might fail, of course might. So that's the thing, and that's one of also the success factors, because especially in small countries, you don't have financing for everything, right? And you don't have the resources and talent for all the sectors. We cannot say that we have 1, 2, 3, 10 priorities. We don't. So we have to have one priority. And to risk, yes, but if that succeeds, then it really it's a huge impact for the GDP and other. But regarding the innovation, one thing is that what we are doing, of course, is using EU money to minimize that risk for the companies. We have, as an agency, established network of business incubators. Our Altum Bank has finished a call for accelerators where the public and private money is being put together. So that's also one kind of mechanism how to enable those startup and those ideas to be developed with less risk-taking from the financing perspective. And another thing is that we have put on the table the law of sandbox. So basically, to enable testing different products and services in a regulated environment, in a sandbox, where you don't have to obey all those regulations. So that's a great thing the government, the Ministry of Economy in particular, has done. We do see that fintech is taking that into consideration and are developing different services in the sandbox. And we are also well known for our military sector. That's the 5G testbed is one large sandbox in Latvia. And I think the medicine, the life sciences should be the next one, because it's of course regulated, maybe at some point over-regulated, but regarding the innovation it takes and it holds, we should somehow create a safe environment where to do things, to invest in order to succeed. Yes. But we from the agency, we are ready to take some risks, of course. We have to.
Very good to hear, because there might be two extremes. From my personal history, when we organized the first hackathons in Baltic with Garage 48, actually Estonian non-profit organization here in Latvia, and one of the previous deans came to me and said, "You see what they did with the prize? They bought beers and pizzas." And there were actually some teams who used the prize money to do this and have just a party. But actually, one of the companies did an app, AR app, that was sold to Facebook back in the days, like 10 years ago. So it's always about the perspective of risking. And another extreme is one of a friend of mine's rents a boat and go to neutral waters to do some experimenting. So it's I think we should find somewhere this golden middle point to actually work and collaborate. Yes, so Ulrika, so you mentioned that the companies that are in the BioVentureHub are not tied, nor to the program, nor to AstraZeneca, nor to the government. So and it's this another thing is not only the the ability to fail, but also the willingness to control that we sometimes have in the country. That I think Sven also mentioned, that IP belongs only to university, blocks researchers maybe sometimes with the bureaucracy. So. What was the philosophy in this decision? So how did you persuade, I don't know, with this vision to actually give this open sandbox to the companies?
Okay, yeah. It was when the hub was set up, it was a lot of background work, of course, to come up with an operational model, and there were kind of some core ideas about the setup, and it was about having open access to the site, and it was about having no ties attached to AstraZeneca, and so on. And so it's a lot about building trust. And it might be a matter of culture, but here in Sweden, it has been proven to work very well. There might be countries where it won't work that good, so that was a very strategic and active decision to make it like that, because we didn't want that small companies moving here shall feel that they are in the belly of big Goliath. So that was the reason. So they shall kind of feel safe, and it was a way to build trust.
So it's all about trust. As you mentioned, I also wrote it down for our summary section, but before we move to the summary, so I gave a floor to Laura to talk about expectations from a public sector. Now it's a classical thing, we will give a floor to our panelists to actually express what they are awaiting from the public sector. And so let's start with Sven. So I think he was, talking quite a lot about, the challenges that researchers might, foresee, etc. So what are your expectations from agencies alike in Estonia, or also maybe investment agency in Latvia?
Well, I don't have any requests towards Latvian investment agency, but if we look at Estonia, then I'd say that the picture, if we look at statistics, the picture seems to be rather towards the trend that the more the government puts money into R&D, the more innovations come out from that area. So if you look at the strong innovators in Europe, for example, or Korea or Israel, then quite a bit of funds go into that, and of course it's easy to always ask for more money. So it's the simplest, lowest hanging fruit, of course. But beyond that, of course, it gets a little bit more technical and specific, and I think that, let's say, governments often also operate in a rather limited knowledge base, because there are different sectors that knock on their doors and ask for something, and they have to figure out how to prioritize and how to prioritize short-term goals and long-term goals, and it might not always be easy. So if I can ask or suggest something, it would be perhaps better or strong advisors in different sectors who would help to make sense what's what in considering different aspects, and in this regard the smart specialization approach in Europe, I think, was quite smart way how to go about it, but it seems, at least in Estonia, that we try to put everything in there that makes more or less sense from the innovation point of view. So in a way, yeah. But it's so. Let me tell you an example that I recently had a talk with not a biotech but a deep tech company, and they were raising money from Enterprise Estonia, and they were saying that it's so hard. They want all these documents and they want all this proof, and the time frame has to be right, and I have to show where my innovation is after that project and all that, and then I asked that, but let's say that you get a contract with Airbus, do you think that they will give you a lot of free time and a lot of resources on your availability that you can do whatever, so you will have even stricter deadlines and even stricter penalties if you don't meet those deadlines? So in a way, looking towards the public sector from the companies, it sometimes may also reflect a bit of a less understanding of the early stage startups, that what it actually means to do business once you have your product or service, and that could be a lot worse. So I wouldn't say that there's a lot to ask from the public sector. I think public sector is actually doing quite good job, even in Estonia, even if some startups or many people are not fully satisfied with that. I think they're doing the best they can considering the situation, and find a very specific niche what to ask. So maybe I pointed out two things, but it's not something like that something is very wrong and we should be asking a lot. So I think the situation is not too bad. Exactly.
Thank you. Ramune? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe as it is kind of final or conclusion. So my invitation, everyone, public sector, private, people sitting in the room, really to think about patient and everything what you do, everything what you create, or barriers you see or hurdles you experience during the day or journey. Look into patients sitting in corridor, in hospital, and try to understand how critical and how important is what you do. So this is our energy, this is our aspiration, and keeping dialogue, I think we will do many great things in the future.
Thank you. Giedrius?
So I think as a small company, what we expect from government, from public sector, I think is first of all, it's if they have strategies, so to follow this strategy, because sometimes it's only words and declarations. Another thing is like consistency, because we also, if there is some programs or grants, sometimes they are not regular, so you cannot plan things. And the maybe most important thing, so maybe not less, but simply a bureaucracy, because sometimes you feel that you do something only for papers, like, and there are no other like reason only to fill more papers, which is also complicates things.
Thank you.
Requires resources.
Ulrika, so what will be your thoughts on what will be the message to the public sector, because we have investment agency here present, and how to build this dialogue. So what is expected from them?
I think the public fund, when it comes to the BioVentureHub, the public funding has been essential, really. Because when we started this 10 years back and presented this to the upper management, they thought it was a very interesting idea, but couldn't see the clear value for AZ. And it had to be, so they said, okay, you can start it, but it has to be cost neutral for AZ. So the public funding was essential, or any funding, but in this case it became public funding. And what we have learned during this year is that it has been working very well, and the companies that have been here, they have grown a lot. We have several success stories to share, and also there has been a lot of, as we used to say in Swedish at least, rings on the water, because from this initiative, other initiative has been created based on the BioVentureHub. So both ABB has developed a hub called Synerly, and it's based on the BioVentureHub concept. And here in Gothenburg, Volvo Group has also set up something similar based on the BioVentureHub concept. And around us, around AstraZeneca Gothenburg, there is a life science cluster being built called GoCo Health Innovation City. And a lot of the ideas also is based on the BioVentureHub. So I think if you choose to invest in promising initiative, then I think you will get so much back in the final end.
Thank you so much, Ulrika. Thank you. So if we are to summarize, I've marked some words and statements that you mentioned, dear colleagues. So first and foremost, I think the important part is the communication. So Laura's presentation, as I saw from especially Giedrius, and he mentioned that, I never thought that Latvia is doing this. So it's all about communication, am I right? So how can we erase those geographical borders, I might say, and share this word, because the region is very compact and we need to talk. Second of all is priority. So under Lithuania's example, that priority not only clears the pathway in mind, but also brings revenue. And the example of Thermo Fisher and other companies from Lithuania shows it as its best. Yes, what Ramune mentioned about the life science sector, and also Ulrika mentioned about life science sector and its investment, major investments in the EU economy, and the good example, a great example of BioVentureHub, how it combines together with the public funding to make the best of it best to the companies, to innovators. So giving this opportunity for one of the major investors to go together with the government. A dialogue is, I wrote just I think some keywords here, a dialogue and direct expectations from both from public sector as well as from private sector. So it's all about communication once again. Very crucial, I think all of the panelists mentioned that it's not only about the monetary investments. So the clear priorities are patients, the healthcare professionals, the healthcare ecosystem as such, where we can for sure measure the econometric outcome as well, but it's all about lives that we're saving and supporting. And the PPP model, so profit, the public-private partnership is here, and I heard that Laura said that it might be the next version for PPP model, at least in Latvia. Very good, so let's use it. Let's use it wisely, dear private sector as well, present here. And what I've heard from multiple panelists is the need for the exit plan. So the private partners are investing, and also the academia is investing, but there should be an exit plan with a clear pathway. If it's a governmental strategy, we should have a consistency, as it's so-called consistency is the key. We cannot just, play around and then say, oh, we don't have any clear strategy for that. So we should think about that. IP, which states from with the professor, I think it's a unique thing, and that should be studied in the books, giving the freedom to researchers. But let's leave it for the next panel, next talks. And yes, so we have a talent pool here in Baltics, and that's a cool thing to have. So we have Leah giving investments, and we should use it. So there are international companies based in Lithuania, in Latvia or Estonia in the end of the day. And just to finalize it with all of the talks that we are a friendly region, cultivating and bringing innovations to worldwide scene, I think we should also mention that Ulrika mentioned that there are a lot of companies in in the Venture Hub, but no companies from Baltics. So we should change it.
Yes, absolutely. We would be very happy. And what I also would like to emphasize there, that our intention is not to move companies out from another country to Sweden. So typically the companies, they are establishing a small Swedish entity here. And of course, keep the headquarters in the home country most often.
So we together with Giedrius will look into that, am I right? So Lithuanian, Latvian-based companies with small Swedish entity, as Ulrika's mentioned. So yeah, to finalize the whole panel, it's all about communication. I think communication was there because private sector does a lot, public sector does a lot. We should do much more and a lot together. So let's use the coffee break here. Next year, we hope to see Ulrika here during the coffee break as well, to use it. Please, dear innovators, use the opportunity to apply for Gothenburg BioVentureHub. So we should have, the first Baltic company next year, next PMNET, we will have them as the panelists, the first Baltic founded company there in Gothenburg.
Yes, please check our website.
Yes, check the website, guys. And let's use the following minutes for the questions to the panelists in the free atmosphere near the coffee break. Thank you very much, dear panelists. Let's give a handful of applause to the panelists. Ulrika, thank you very much. So thank you very much for joining us and using this time. Welcome to Latvia next time, please. So see you. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.